Hey everyone, it's Paul from Alexander Knife Sharpening. What I wanted to show you today is another thing you can offer your customers if you want to get into more work other than just sharpening. So I had a customer who brought in 2 boot knives. One we're doing new scales on, but this one he didn't like the way it looked, and it did have some scratches on it and had just a flat gray finish on it. So what I'm going to do with this knife is we're going to put a stone washed etched finish on here, and it's really easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do it, and we'll get started here in a few minutes. So the first thing you want to do is just you want to make sure everything's cleaned off and looking good, and you want to make sure your surfaces look good. So I did re-sand this and did some polishing to take out some scratches that were on here. Then I just tied it off with a piece of string and a pencil, and it's going to go into acid. What you're going to need to do this is ferric acid. I get mine on Amazon. It's not expensive and it will last you a long time. You mix it with water. You'll see different mixtures out there. I mix mine with water, but I've also seen some people mix it with vinegar. There's different formulas. I'm using a 1-to-3, so 3 parts water, 1 part ferric acid. Other things you want to have, get some baking soda for a neutralizer. I have a little tank over here for neutralizing, and I'll show you my little setup over here. So down here is my setup for doing the etching. So I'm going to take this and drop it into the acid solution, and I like to do anywhere between 5 and 7 minute checks on it. So I'll put it in there for anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes, and I'll pull it out and I'll check the coloring and see how dark it is. Now some people pull it out and clean it off with water and then put it back in. What I like to do is to take a Q-tip, and I'll dip my Q-tip in the acid and just rub the steel clean. I'll put it right back in the acid. I don't bother going right to the water. I just use the etching solution and rub it on there. So I am working with the acid, so you need to be careful doing that. So as you can see, I have a bucket down here. I have extra water up here. Like I said, I have a mixture of baking soda to neutralize any acid that I need to, or even to neutralize Q-tips after I've rubbed it. And then I will be wearing gloves. Acid has always kind of scared me, so I have actually pretty decent chemical resistant gloves you can get at any hardware store. And a mask or eye protection isn't a bad idea too. You wouldn't want anything to splash and hit you in the eyes. So think about your safety, and also think about your shop safety. I always make sure, because the biggest thing in here is always a trip hazard. I got a lot of junk and cameras and things and wires. So just make sure your work area is nice and clean. So the next step for me, you want to protect anything that has, like, so if this was a folder, you would want to protect any folding areas where screws, nuts, bolts, and things are going through. But since these are a boot knife, these are really easy. The only thing I have is the 3 screw holes for the scales, where the scales are going to go back in. But I'm still going to put nail polish in here just to protect those, which I'll clean off with acetone. And I'm going to clean the entire thing with acetone before it goes in there, just to make sure it's super clean. You don't want fingerprints, you don't want anything on there. You want it as clean as you can possibly be. So I'm going to put on my gloves, I'm going to clean it up, and then it will go in there. But the first thing I'm going to do is get some fingernail polish on here, and I'll show you that real quick. And this is just, I didn't even buy this. I went in and said to my wife, hey, you got some colors that you don't like anymore, don't use. So if you have a wife or a girlfriend, you can maybe just hit her up for some fingernail polishes that she doesn't like the colors for anymore. This is like a brownish black, it looks like. And all I got to do I just want to get it. It doesn't have to be perfect because this whole area is going to be covered by the scales. The main thing I'm trying to do is just make sure that the area that the screws go in that hold the scales on doesn't etch to eat away metal there to change the size. So that's the only reason I'm doing there, but it's a little more important if you're doing like a folder or got, you know, some moving parts to it. So keep that in mind. Protect anything you don't want being etched because it is actually eating a little bit of the steel away. Alright, so that's done. I'm just going to give that a few minutes to dry, and then once that's dry, I'm gonna start wiping the whole thing with acetone to clean it off, and I'm gonna put some of my gear on. Okay, so another thing you're gonna need if you're gonna do a stone wash etch is some rocks, and I got some of these like decorative rocks. They're like river rocks. These are nice smooth ones, but you can use all kinds of different rocks and get different looks. So I don't want big deep gashes in it, so I'm using smooth rocks. But if you use sharper rocks, you get little sharper lines in your etching, in your stone washing after you do your etching. So what happens is, once we're done in here, then I'm going to put the knife in here, and I'm going to literally shake it around just like that. A nice circular motion while the knife's in there. And that will start to put the stone wash pattern into the knife. It's nice if you have a clear container, because that way you can kind of see the progress and how it's going. I also don't recommend, don't shake hard like back and forth. That tends to put long gashes in, especially if you're using sharp rocks. I like the round circular motion. I find that works better and gives a nicer pattern. So you don't go real crazy with it. You know, it's a nice soft kind of tumbling of your knife in there. Just cleaned my knife. The nail polish has been given time to dry, and I'm going to start my timer on my Apple Watch over here, and I'm going to go in for my first dip. Okay, so my timer just went off for 7 minutes. And let's take a look at our progress so far. And so you can see it's starting to get a darker gray, which is good. It's not as dark as I want it, so we're going to go right back in for a while. Now let me show you the process of scrubbing. I dip my Q-tip in here, and I will scrub the steel with the Q-tip that's being etched, just to get the steel that has come off already off of here. And I'll redip it. You can redip it as you're doing this. Okay, you scrub both sides. Make sure you're getting that all cleaned off of there, because this is going to be considerably darker. You can make it as dark as you want. It's a personal preference. It's just a matter of time that you allow it to be in this etching solution. See the black coming off on there? So that will start to come off just like that. And I find that if you scrub it like this, it does help the process. I find a little bit better than if you clean it in water every time. I'm going back in. I'm going to reset my timer again. And now what I'm going to do, because this is full of acid, I'm going to put this right in the solution, to the baking soda solution, to neutralize that. Okay, so this is my third round. We're at about 20 some minutes now. Another thing I wanted to show you real quick too, another thing you can neutralize acid with is Windex. So if you don't have any baking soda, Windex will actually work too. You can spray this on the knife as you're looking to neutralize things. So I'm going to probably do a little more scrubbing unless it's done. But let's take a look, and you'll see now it's going to be a good bit darker than before. So you can see, and you can actually see some of where I scrubbed it before there, and a lot of this gray is going to come off as we scrub. All right, so I'm going to just get in here and do some more scrubbing. Now there are people, some people take steel wool while they scrub off the scale from the dunks in here. That's a way to do it too. Some people like to, like I said, like to do it in water. So they'll, I do have a bucket below me. I could spray it with water and clean it off that way. I just find that this works really well too. Just getting in here and scrubbing it with the Q-tip. Just be careful, as I said, because you are scrubbing with acid, and you just want to be careful that you're not, you don't want to flick the acid or get it on you or get it in your face. You know, it is acid, so be very, very careful with it. Let me show you how I like to. The one thing I love about these gloves, they have a little kind of rubber gritty pattern to them. I will spray this up with some Windex, and I will rub the gray with my finger. Usually I like to take the rope off because I know it's been saturated with the ferric chloride acid, and I want to get all the acid off. So now I placed my knife inside my container with the rocks, and I'm just doing a nice little circular motion with it. This goes on for about 5 minutes. You do it until you get the results that you like, and then you can stop. I did spray WD-40 all over my knife, and I sprayed it in the container on the rocks. So I like to oil them. Some people will use Dawn dish detergent and water. You can do that as well. There's options, and like I said, everybody does this process a little bit different. I like to use WD-40. So we have our stone, very cool stone washed finish. So here's the knife before we started doing the stone washing process, but this was after I cleaned it up, polished it up, and removed some of the scratches. And here's our finished knife after sharpening it on the Tormek, and you can see the much more interesting stone washed finish on this boot knife. Thanks for tuning in, and I will leave links to the products that I used in this video, as always, in the description on the YouTube video.